It is not the biggest, nor the most active, but it is perhaps the most famous and most dangerous volcano in the world. Over 1 million people live in Naples, the city that eats, sleeps and wakes in the shadow of Vesuvius. Only plenty of early warning and the most detailed evacuation plan ever developed for a natural calamity of this kind give the people who live in the Vesuvius red zone any chance of surviving an eruption. At the end of a long day, a mountain search and rescue team descends into the crater of the most dangerous volcano in the world. Their task is to check the dozens of instruments monitoring Vesuvius and collect gas samples from the bottom of the crater. It's a tough job, but the Civil Defense Rescue Team loves it. Here they are in direct contact with a dormant monster that is overdue to awake. The summit of the most famous volcano in the world is just 1,900 meters high. Though it is neither the tallest nor the most active, say the experts, it is the most dangerous. It is the only volcano on the European mainland to have erupted within the last 100 years. At its foot live more than 1 million people, 500,000 on its flanks, in a haphazard maze of small towns and narrow streets that have been constructed up to just 2 kilometers from the summit. Living in the shadow of Vesuvius means being ready at a moment's notice to evacuate, leave everything behind, and get off the mountain, fast. Their only chance of surviving an eruption is early warning by the civil defense authorities keeping an eye on the restless mountain.
Cioè, per quanto possano tenere sotto controllo.
However much they watch the volcano, I think that most of us Neapolitans don't believe that we will get 72 hours warning.
Riescono ad avvertire 72 ore prima.
Per quanto riguarda il
As far as the Vesuvius problem is concerned, we have just one need, and that is impress on the population that it is important to be prepared.
Noi come Vigili del Fuoco di Napoli,
As the Naples Fire Brigade, we will have the role of everyday search and rescue and also loan some of our people to the Civil Defense Headquarters for what we might call special operations.
straordinari, chiamiamoli così.
2,000 years ago, this mountain erupted, sending a lethal cloud of incandescent ash, molten rock and pulverized pumice rushing down its slopes, famously devastating the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. 16,000 people were estimated to have been killed. It could happen again, very soon, wiping out parts of the city of Naples and the towns on the volcano's slopes. Building the evacuation plan for such a catastrophe has been the lifelong mission of this man. Agnello Di Nardo is the councillor of the Campania region responsible for putting in place and maintaining the civil defense evacuation plan for the Naples area. He comes often to visit the first volcano observatory, built beneath the summit of Vesuvius in the 19th century. This is where the first seismographs were placed to measure the swelling and shrinking of the mountain, sure signs that an eruption was about to begin.
Abbiamo già un piano di evacuazione per il Vesuvio che stiamo.
We already have an evacuation plan for Vesuvius that we are concluding with meetings with the National Department for Civil Defense, with the other institutions that play a part in the whole plan, which, let's hope it never happens, will bring about an evacuation.
Che non accadrà mai ad un'eventuale evacuazione.
The small town of Ottaviano on the eastern flank of Vesuvius is home to 23,000 people. The ancient town has narrow streets that can be difficult to navigate, especially in the case of an emergency.
Noi nasciamo con questo pericolo in più. È come chi...
We are born with this added danger. It's like people in Australia or America who swim in the ocean, knowing that there are sharks about. We don't have sharks in the Mediterranean.
Una persona che è nata là è abituata...
People who are born there are used to the threat of sharks, and we are used to the dangers of living with our volcano.
The narrow streets open up onto a spectacular view of Vesuvius from the east. Close by, the wooden chalet of Valle Verde is open only in the summertime, when residents from the hot, chaotic urban neighborhoods below seek out cool evenings in the shadow of the volcano. The bar is owned by two brothers, Mimmo and Nello Giuliano, who live with the volcano every day. They simply love it here.
Il fantasma dei...
The ghost of our ancestors of Pompeii. Seeing them and all that magma, yes, does echo in our heads, but in the end, we don't think about it. When it happens, we'll see.
We'll improvise.
No, it doesn't really frighten me because, yeah, it is active, but it doesn't worry me at all, not really, no. Yes, it does worry me.
The beautiful location shows off the gifts of the volcano, with its fertile earth and rich vegetation. The small town where Nello works is on the eastern flank of the mountain, nestled in its embrace. The people of Ottaviano have come to accept the risk the volcano poses every single day.
The elderly people with stronger ties to the town, with emotional attachments, they'll probably stay here.
In their homes.
Others, the younger ones, will try to escape, maybe evacuating to an area close by where they can seek safety.
E sapendo comunque...
Knowing that the car is a bit of a problem.
È un po' un problema. Molti pensiamo che...
Many of us think that the bike would be ideal, or a scooter.
O il motorino.
That's what civil defense is about. It's not just handling emergencies. It's about forecasting and prevention. If we are able to forecast and prevent disasters, we will be saving, above all, financially.
The dozens of sensors dotted across Vesuvius are connected in real time to the Italian Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology and the Vesuvius Observatory, directed by Giuseppe De Natale.
Vesuvius, together with the Phlegraean Fields and Ischia, is one of the most monitored volcanic areas in the world, using the most modern technologies. We have various kinds of sensors that monitor the three main phenomena that suggest that an eruption is about to happen. The first indicator of an imminent eruption is seismic activity. Another very important indicator is the swelling of the earth. The third indicator is one that has been studied a lot over the last decades, and that is abnormal geochemical surface emissions. Today, thanks to the models we have developed, it is considered a true precursor, in particular in the gas vents.
As night falls on Vesuvius, the prospect of having to escape through the narrow streets of Ottaviano and many other small towns that have grown in the shadow of the volcano is catastrophic. The mountain has been quiet for too long now and is overdue to erupt. Seen from the other side of the bay, the sheer size of Vesuvius is evident. It is one of the world's most famous landmarks, yet few are familiar with the Vesuvius National Park, located mostly in the territory of Ottaviano. A beautiful Roman villa that was abandoned on its flanks is now finally being restored and open to the public, after being frozen in time for centuries. Those who make the long and hot trek to the top on the trails that wind through lush forests and ancient lava flows are rewarded with the spectacular views from the summit.
Porta turismo il Vesuvio, però porta turismo spontaneo.
Vesuvius does bring tourism, but spontaneous tourism. It isn't publicized, but we don't have the infrastructure needed to work on the territory we have. I speak for Ottaviano. I think that Ottaviano covers between 40 and 50% of the territory of the volcano. And there's nothing here for a visitor from outside, such as an information center, where you can see what there is to visit, what fauna you can see, the usual things. There's nothing.
Non c'è niente.
From Mount Vesuvius, the famous islands of Capri and Ischia stand out in the Bay of Naples, with its 1.3 million inhabitants, all living in the shadow of the world's most dangerous volcano. The city of Naples extends northwest of the mountain, with small towns such as Torre del Greco, Ercolano and Pompeii stretching southwards. Vesuvius is dangerous because of its location, overlooking the densely populated city of Naples below. Part of the Campanian volcanic arc, Vesuvius consists of a large cone and one central summit caldera. Though the local people shrug it off as unlikely to happen in their lifetime, a large eruption would swiftly devastate the city below, submerging it in a pyroclastic cloud of burning dust, rock, and ash.
The National Civil Defense Department has put together a plan for the volcanoes, which involves 4 alert levels. The first level, in which the volcano is dormant, is called green status. If there is an anomaly in at least one of the parameters, the state of alarm is raised to yellow and is called the alert phase. If the phenomena continue and become more important, the level is raised to orange. And if the phenomena continue, then we get to the red status, or alarm. When the red alarm stage is activated, the red zone of the volcano has to be evacuated completely in 3 days.
Predicting when and how the volcano is likely to erupt is impossible. But, statistically, Vesuvius is long overdue to awake. Local authorities are studying past eruptions to predict what the next one might look like.
The last eruption of Vesuvius was in 1944, in March 1944. It was a relatively minor eruption of Vesuvius. The Plinian column, so the explosive phase, reached about 3 kilometers in height, and since the winds at high altitude generally blow eastward, these kinds of eruptions, at least the lighter part of them, ash and pumice, don't fall on Naples.
2 continental plates clash along Italy's coast, creating a fault line that runs the length of the peninsula. The Anatolian, African, and Eurasian continental plates collide in the central Mediterranean, creating fissures and tears in the Earth's crust. Vesuvius is a stratovolcano with a central main vent that connects the summit of the cone to the molten lava lake under the mountain.
Vesuvius is a classic central volcano, also known as a stratovolcano, because it's made up of various layers of deposits from successive eruptions over time, and it has, like all volcanoes of this kind, a central crater, or rather, a central part from which the great majority of eruptions occur.
Today, volcano watchers the world over are able to give hours, if not days, advance warning that a volcano is about to erupt. Over the years, highly sensitive sensors have been developed to give as much warning as possible.
We have extremely advanced systems to record earthquakes, to record earth deformation, to record geochemical anomalies in the surface emissions. So when there are anomalies in these phenomena, we send a communique to the civil defense.
Although an eruption on Vesuvius would become a national emergency, local Neapolitans are preparing for it too. The first sign of an imminent eruption are earthquakes, and when the earth starts to tremble beneath Naples, many of the city's fragile buildings could collapse. Here at the Naples fire station, a team of local firefighters specialized in urban search and rescue, or USAR, are ready to move at a moment's notice. They are among the best in Europe and are called out thousands of times every year. Today, they are on a training exercise and being led by Captain Francesco De Martino, one of the city's heroes.
As far as the urban search and rescue is concerned, we're in the preparatory phase because it involves quite intensive training, because you have to know the caving, alpine, and river rescue techniques, first aid, building stabilization, and so forth. So we are preparing our personnel, and that's why we are going to a training ground where we can practice these techniques.
Dove lo stiamo ultimando per poterci preparare rispetto a queste tecniche.
The fire brigade is tasked not only with rescue, but also with ensuring the stability of buildings. And in the Naples area, there are many factors that can cause collapse.
Personally, I was present when 5 buildings collapsed, because the situation of buildings in Naples is extremely complex, and I'm happy to say that we got there in time and we were able to evacuate them completely. Then what was going to happen, happened.
Many factors can cause houses to collapse, from sinkholes to earthquakes to underground water and the maze of tunnels that runs under the city. In this labyrinth, stone for construction has been excavated for thousands of years, leaving large voids beneath the city.
It's a complex job. We never stop. Let's say that search and rescue is the area we prefer because we are completely operational. We go with an intervention team. We go to the location as we are today. We also get satisfaction from doing something positive.
Captain Francesco De Martino has been at the scene of all the major Italian earthquake tragedies, from the Umbrian earthquake that destroyed the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi, to the May 2009 earthquake at L'Aquila, and the June 2012 earthquake in Emilia-Romagna. His speciality is urban search and rescue and making buildings safe from collapse. The SAF unit is a caving, river and alpine rescue team. Today, the team is training in urban search and rescue in an area of debris and tunnels specially designed to simulate a house that has collapsed after one of the earthquakes that would likely accompany the eruption of Vesuvius. The commander of the Naples Fire Brigade, Gaetano Vallefuoco, has come to observe his crews at work.
Il nostro lavoro si basa sul concetto di squadra.
Our job is based around the squad concept. The basic squad is made up of 5 firefighters, the squad leader, the driver, and 3 rescue personnel. They are people who live and breathe their work, not only when on duty, but also while waiting. Ours is a job that doesn't stop at the end of a working day. Our teams often swing into action when they're off duty too.
Tanti sono anche gli interventi che alcune volte il nostro personale fa anche libero dal servizio.
The first onto the scene are the dogs. Their trainer is Giuseppe Bove. A Belgian Shepherd and the German Shepherd are the two dogs that will search for someone under the rubble. Their barking is an indication that there is a human down there somewhere.
Perhaps he has found something.
However, one is not enough. Two dogs are needed to confirm the presence of a human.
There's confirmation.
After the dogs have done their duty, they are rewarded with play or a treat by their handlers, who often grow close to the animals while working together in dramatic emergency situations. After the dogs have successfully located the trapped person, the acoustic seismic sensors team must get to work. A circle of acoustic and vibration sensors is placed around the area where the dogs identified a victim to locate source of sound. The sensors use the collapsed building as a microphone, amplifying the slightest sounds. A team with a probe is sent in to search for the actual location of the victim and gain visual and, if possible, audio contact with him or her. The team sets up a tripod crane in order to lower rescuers into the narrow hole. Time is ticking away as the victim awaits rescue. He has lost the use of his lower limbs and is blocked. The first down is a paramedic. In the case of a Vesuvius eruption, getting oxygen to the victim could be a matter of life or death.
The man who went down is a caver and alpine rescue man, and he is self-protected with protection for his lungs should he have breathing difficulties. And he has taken oxygen for the victim down there as well. We have been able to speak to him, and he is conscious but unable to move.
The paramedic is followed by a rescuer. Once they have established contact, they need to release the victim from any obstacles and stabilize him on the stretcher. They are in direct contact with the unit commander on the surface.
Okay, now we're sending it down. You've already immobilized him with a collar for the neck. We're sending down the caver's stretcher, okay?
Time is of the essence. At last, the victim is ready to be hauled out of the hole.
That's the satisfaction. Whether the victim is a colleague or not, the satisfaction of saving a human life, it stays with you. I remember a rescue we carried out at Afragola a few years ago. We recovered a 10-year-old girl. Now she's like another daughter. I was among the men who saved her. We were a real team that day, a real team. The real hero, though, was the girl. We're not heroes.
As the injured man is evacuated to an awaiting ambulance for treatment, the team disperses, ready for another operation. The Naples Fire Department is one step closer to being prepared for a Vesuvius emergency.
We provide the civil defense with backup in the case of pre-alarm and evacuation of the population. But mainly, in the unfortunate event of an eruption with all its consequences, so earthquakes and damage to buildings, we would be using the techniques employed during today's exercise, developed for just such a scenario.
Abbiamo utilizzato nell'attività esercitativa odierna in funzione anche di questi scenari.
The earthquakes that warned of an imminent eruption would have by now set in motion a massive civil defense evacuation. The Vesuvian Observatory is connected to dozens of sensors located all around the mountain. These include magnetism, expansion, seismic, and gas sensors. Descriptions of Vesuvian eruptions have allowed experts to predict what might happen and plan accordingly. Forewarning is essential to survival.
La tipologia di eruzioni che potrebbe avvenire oggi è per quello che
The type of eruption that might occur today is in fact very similar to what happened in the past. It's a kind of eruption that involves an area of about 10 kilometers around the crater, which is in fact the typical size of the red zone.
Della zona rossa.
This archive film of the last eruption of Vesuvius 70 years ago shows just how devastating it was, with lava and ash encroaching rapidly on the villages below. World War II pilots documented the eruption from the air. These American B-25s passed close to the erupting volcano on their way to bomb targets. The towns and villages closest to the crater would be ordered to evacuate within 72 hours, although there is no guarantee that the eruption would actually materialize. In the case of a false alarm, the inhabitants could return to their homes. Italo Giulivo is the director of the Regional Civil Defense Services and responsible for activating the evacuation plan.
It's a volcano that has a very complex eruption history. The last eruption was in 1944. It has 150 square kilometers of area in which 675,000 people live within the so-called red zone, or rather the area that will have to be evacuated due to it becoming uninhabitable during an eruption. That's because of the high temperature and the gas that would be present in the incandescent cloud that would spread over the volcano's flanks.
As far as the Vesuvius red zone is concerned, the latest information is that there are 25 municipalities with a population that varies between 650 and 700,000 that will be evacuated and taken to twinned towns, which have been identified under the previous government of Enrico Letta in 2014.
However, the sheer number of people to evacuate is so overwhelming, a detailed plan has been set in place, subdividing the danger areas into red, yellow, and blue zones. The yellow zone east of Vesuvius would be subject to massive ash falls, while the blue zone might suffer flooding. However, the red zone would be directly enveloped by the pyroclastic cloud. There are no less than 670,000 people who live in the red zone, most exposed to the effects of the eruption, whose only hope of survival comes from being forewarned and allowed to evacuate. It is a long way to the bottom of the mountain and out of harm's way.
There are about 375,000 vehicles registered in the area. So if we put 2 people in each car, we would guarantee the evacuation of the whole population of the red zone. However, establishing the needs of the evacuation plan requires us to make some suppositions, which the questionnaires we're sending out will allow us to refine in more detail. However, for the moment, we are assuming that each vehicle will leave with just the driver, and we're assuming that the vehicle will actually be used to carry objects of value that the driver wants to take away.
Regional transport experts have put together a detailed transport plan for the evacuation. In actual fact, a peculiarity of the new plan which updates the previous plan involves a staggered departure of the population, both in private vehicles and vehicles organized by the civil defense. So the mass of 370,000 vehicles, distributed uniformly over the effective time of movement, which is in the order of 48 hours, makes for a flow of vehicles that can be sustained by the road network and controlled by the police forces. Managing the traffic of hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the possible cataclysm caused by the eruption of the volcano is another key aspect of the evacuation plan. Each town, such as Ottaviano, will have assembly points for evacuees traveling by bus. Simply moving 670,000 people out of the area will require the use of many different modes of transport. The civil defense staff is tasked with coordinating not only road transport, but also transfers by sea and rail.
We have the moral obligation to intervene effectively, to evacuate all the citizens, to do this with great care and with great sense of responsibility. We are doing this with the National Department for Civil Defense and are using all the institutions that are present in Campania, from the railways with regard to land transport, as well as sea transport. We will be using ships and ferries, so we are identifying ports where we can give refuge to these people.
The rail network within the red zone will be deactivated, with electric current cut off from the railway lines and the plant shut down for safety. The railway lines outside the red zone will be used to evacuate people. In a northerly direction, there are 3 different railway lines. Then there's a 4th going eastwards and a 5th southwards. So the total number of railway lines we can use are 5.
È sicuramente un piano ambizioso, però
It's certainly an ambitious plan based on a strong national spirit of solidarity, which is not lacking in Italy. It's a plan that is suited to a volcano emergency, but it could also be used in other high-risk scenarios that involve hundreds of thousands of people.
qualsiasi altro scenario di rischio che coinvolge centinaia di migliaia di persone.
The detailed evacuation plan involves moving people from the red zone to other towns and cities of Italy that have been twinned with specific areas of Naples.
Yes, we know that there are evacuation plans and that every town close to the volcano has a place to go if anything happened. But these are bureaucratic things.
The meeting points where the transport begins, be it a port if transport is by sea, or a station if it's by land, or a fleet of buses if it's a road, are outside the red zone.
An evacuation, whether it happens or not, relies on a population that is well prepared, confident and capable of acting. And even if they have to return home, they do so knowing it was done for their safety, to save the lives of all the people who lived in those 25 municipalities.
As people flee the red zone, the buildings of the yellow zone will be subject to massive ash and lapilli fall, causing some of them to collapse. Captain De Martino is also an instructor in consolidation techniques, pioneered here in Naples and used all over Italy. He runs a course to prepare firefighters to stabilize collapsed or compromised buildings. It's a technique, says De Martino, based on the triangle.
In tutti i tipi di costruzioni, anche nella carpenteria metallica, se tu vedi viene costruito sempre il triangolo. Questo perché c'è una legge fisica. Il triangolo è una figura geometrica indeformabile.
Once the outer rim of the doorway to be supported has been lined with a basic wooden structure, it now has to be made self-supporting. And this is where the interaction of triangles comes in. The master carpenter of the fire brigade gets to work. Students must learn this technique before they can join the urban search and rescue team, precisely so they could shore up buildings in the case of a Vesuvius-related seismic event. In 2012, the fire brigade tested the evacuation plan in an exercise called Mesimex. They were tasked with propping up an ancient Roman villa on Somma Vesuviana to preserve its unique archaeological heritage. Firefighters carefully removed the statues without breaking them. It was a team effort coordinated by Francesco De Martino, using not only search and rescue techniques to remove stone statues, but also the building consolidation protocols that he teaches. All the upgrades to the infrastructures will be inserted into the plan and update all the individual aspects of the plan itself. So the plan is never finished, but can be rendered operational within a few months if the pre-alarm level is reached. And until then, it will continue to be upgraded with the latest data, such as resident population, the infrastructures available, the distribution of mobile items of cultural heritage.
There will certainly be other exercises with the Italian Navy. We are putting together all the instruments that Europe puts at our disposal. Through a European project, we have bought vehicles for the fire brigade and for the volunteer associations. The volunteer associations in the individual municipalities and for the region itself. We have spent something like 38 million euros.
The fear that Vesuvius may erupt soon is based on scientific data, but no one can really predict when or if this will actually happen. The sun rises over the Bay of Naples, one of the most famous sights in the world. The rare beauty of Vesuvius, coupled with the lethal danger it poses, have turned it into the most famous volcano on the planet. The last time it exploded in 1944, the Second World War was a year from its end, and the people of Naples had suffered Nazi occupation and Allied bombing. It was just a small eruption compared with the cataclysm of 2,000 years before.
Vesuvius is capable of much bigger eruptions, such as the so-called Plinian eruption, made famous by the eruption of 79 AD, in which, on the contrary, erupted material reached up to 30 kilometers high, so 10 times higher than the 1944 event.
Today, civil defense plans are based on what could most likely happen, not worst-case scenarios. The March 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption in the USA produced a similar explosion to what happened in 79 AD on Vesuvius. The Mount St. Helens pyroclastic cloud moved at 100 kilometers per hour and destroyed 650 square kilometers in just 9 minutes. Winds blew the cloud east, turning day to dark and developing hundreds of miles in an ash storm. From Vesuvius, prevalent wind direction is towards the southeast, so the volcanic ash is most likely to fall on the mountains around Avellino, while the heavier pyroclastic material may fall closer. The lava flows would mostly be trapped in Hell's Valley, but could flow towards Torre del Greco and Ercolano. It is unlikely that they would flow into Naples itself.
Obviously, when we establish the areas to evacuate, we can't take into account the less likely eruptions that would involve the whole world. But we have to decide what scenario is most probable.
Ragionare in termini di probabilità.
The motorways and dual carriageways out of Naples have been improved, but actually moving hundreds of thousands of people within just 3 days involves a delicate balance of urgency and order.
Siccome l'allontanamento avverrà in una fase di relativa
Since the evacuation will take place in a state of relative tranquility, we are assuming that at the time all the transport infrastructures will be available and usable. So the cars will be able to use the roads without problems, and the railway networks will continue to be used. Obviously, the ports will also be functioning. Cars will be able to leave immediately. A system using either the railways or ships is under development and might involve both combined, ship and train, all starting from the meeting points we have established in the territory. Special roads have been built, such as the 268, and the Naples ring roads have been improved. But actually getting to the meeting points might prove more difficult than expected.
Il sindaco telefona.
The mayor calls and you have to take the 268, the motorway. The motorway that basically takes you out of the area. It was built for this reason.
È stata fatta proprio per questo, diciamo.
Anyway, the population is really big, you see.
E quando comunque si...
It'll be hellish.
Sì, perché poi ovviamente tutti
Because everyone will want to get away. And some will want to go this way, others that way. So it will be chaotic.
si fa un caos.
Io mi sembra che noi da qua dovremmo andare tipo a Torino.
I seem to remember that from here we will be moved to Turin. These are just things that have been written, but people from here will resist going elsewhere because they would be leaving behind a home, a shop. I think a lot of people will want to stay here.
It might be that no one, or maybe not no one, but a good part of the population will not leave and will remain here where they were born and will wait for death to come to them here.
We have to intervene in this too. Allow the towns that will receive these citizens, these people, to offer the same services they have in their own hometowns. This means having ID cards. It means having a doctor with regards to health. It means having schools where children can go. It involves moving one town into another. This has to be organized with great care. And as I say, with the moral obligation to save the lives of all the citizens who, unfortunately, live in this area.
Forse, siccome il motto dei napoletani è un po' stai senza pensieri,
the motto of the Neapolitans is, don't worry about a thing. So the beauty of our lives is to live without worries in our heads. And so just as I don't think about death, I don't worry about the eruption of Vesuvius. So the beauty of living here, enjoying the beauty of our town without worrying that one day it might all come to a sticky end.
Neapolitans are famously happy and carefree. They know each day beneath Vesuvius is a gift, as any day the sleeping giant could reawaken, as it has throughout history, threatening the very existence of over 1 million people living in its shadow.